just like a little more space. I just feel like maybe like on top of each other a little bit, just like physically a little more space. Yeah. Cool.
Welcome to Decoding TV's coverage of The Bear. I'm David Chen here with Patrick Klepek. At the end of last season of The Bear, season 4, Carmy had made a pretty consequential decision. He had told the rest of the crew, including Sydney, Richie, and Natalie, that he was going to be leaving the food service industry. Who knows what plot possibilities that was going to lead to? Of course, we find out during this season of The Bear that there is going to be a big service because the Bear, the restaurant, is in terrible shape, but they need to keep it going for one more night. And that is basically what this season is. So we're going to talk about the overall structure of the season with no like final episode spoilers for the first part of this conversation. And then at the very end, we'll talk about like where all the characters end up at the series finale point. But we'll start by just saying overall, again, this is the structure of the season. I'm going to talk about it right now. This season takes place mostly over the course of a single day. And so that is a unique premise for a season of television and, of course, The Bear as well. And it potentially has some room for pretty interesting drama. All that said, Patrick Klepek, I want to hear from you. We've had a pretty mixed feelings about The Bear over the last few seasons. Seasons 1 and 2, I think we both thought were great. 3 and 4, much more mixed. Now with season 5, do you think this is a return to form? Is The Bear back to its former glory? Or is it a waste of time in this season? What did you think of the season overall?
Hold on. Caw! That's how I feel. But I think this show landed the plane.
Wow.
I think this is much closer to the show that I fell in love with in seasons 1 and 2. It lowers its ambitions to get these characters all in a place and rowing in one direction, both in terms of their individual character arcs, which truly came to an end at the end of season 4. So they brought everyone back for one last ride. And this is really just a one last ride episode or season that feels like we're going through the motions in a way that is a goodbye, like a swan song to why I fell in love with the show and these characters in the first place. And so it felt like every 15 minutes, I watched a lot of this on an airplane, and I'm like, you're crying again, Patrick. Like, you're crying, keep it together. It hit so many different emotional moments for me. I do not think it hits the electric highs of seasons 1 and 2, but it hit the very low bar of land the plane without crashing it, and I think it far exceeded that. I had when we talked about whether we were going to watch the entire season, I was gone on a work trip where I had precious little free time that I could dedicate to it. And a combination of the vast majority of the episodes being 20 to 30 minutes with a couple of exceptions, but then just the sheer propulsion of the season.
The momentum of the plot this season, right?
You told me you don't have to watch the whole, it's okay if you don't watch the whole thing. It'd be great, but like, it's all right. I understand. I watched the whole damn thing because I could not watch the whole damn thing. So I had a wonderful time. It's far from perfect, but in terms of where the show was and some of the messes it had gotten itself into structurally and with its characters, I thought they did a wonderful course correction. And it's such a weird, I was sad I was saying goodbye, which was not how I was feeling at the ends of season 3 and 4. It was like, we need to say goodbye because this has gone on too long. It's like, oh, you did it to me again. I wish these characters were coming back, and they shouldn't. But that's the feeling I was left with, which is the feeling you want to be left with when you're getting, I think, a fitting goodbye to a world that you enjoyed being in. So I was a big fan of this final season, and I think if you somehow fell off, I think it would be worth coming back for this final ride.
Beautifully said as usual, Patrick. Here's how I feel about The Bear season 5. Deeply ambivalent. And I will share why. Let's talk about the good things, right? First of all, the idea of setting most of the season over the course of one night, that's just like a really cool idea. Like I as a kind of a guy who, me, David Chen, I love experiments in the, formalism of filmmaking. And so, I'm the guy that went to go see Johnny Depp's Nick of Time in theaters because takes place in real time. It's like, oh wow, what a cool concept! It takes place in real time. 24. I love that stuff. This episode, it's not quite real time, but it's like almost real time, right?
Yeah.
The first batch of episodes, and I just think that is audacious to try to have that idea and be like, I'm gonna make that work. Like I admire that greatly. And I do think that this show has always been about vibes. It's been about hanging with these characters. And do you like hanging with these characters? And if you have enjoyed seasons 1 through 4, I think you will like season 5, right? Like that is really important, right? If you're watching this video or listening to this podcast and you liked The Bear season 1 through 4, I give this season a strong recommend, right? And so those are like some initial positive thoughts about it. The negative thing that gnaws at me about this season is I feel like they really had a chance to switch up the status quo of the show in season 5, right? Like season 4 ends with this big decision that Carmi makes, and like what would that be like if Carmi was just like external to the whole thing, and it was like Richie and Natalie and Sydney that had to like make things work on their own, and the show, I think at its worst, has never wanted to deviate from its central dynamics. It's always wanted to be about, we're worshiping the Michelin star restaurants, and also people are fighting, but we're family and we're gonna get through it together. And that has been the whole show. And I was like, oh, maybe there's a chance for them to like move beyond that to something else. They didn't move beyond that. They're still doing that. All that said, when we get to the end of season 5, man, it really got me choked up too. Like I despised season 3 of the show. I was like, I think I called it a waste of time, or like insultingly a waste of time, something like that. But then when we got to the end of season 5, there are a handful of
The
emotional
plane,
moments.
I'm not gonna but the plane,
There's just like, they're like emotional haymakers that the show is landing.
the hug.
It's just like, oh, like I can't. That's not those moments aren't even what I'm talking about. There's like, we'll talk about it momentarily.
I know,
but there's just like a handful of moments that are just like,
it's spray. I think the reason we may not have an overlap there is because the show is just spraying a machine gun's worth of like emotion.
A machine gun of like emotional catharsis
What is your personal trauma that we're going to touch on here? And it's like, boom, here's a grenade, and like your heart explodes.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And also like, great credit to the show. No John Cena. You know what? Just recognizing that, let's pick one or two guest characters like that come back for like a brief moment. Although I think everybody but John Cena gets to basically come back at a scene towards the end. I guess he just couldn't make it. There's a lot of restraint in that capacity this season as well, where we're really focused on, for the large part, the characters we know, as opposed to so much like the fact that the Fack family is restrained by the measure in which the Bear allowed itself to keep expanding what the Facts did, is a real testament to, I think, the show understanding the scope of its ambitions this season. Just the right amount of Fack family exhaust.
I also think this season brought back, to me, it feels like it brought back more humor than in previous seasons,
funnier.
right? Like this show started as a wacky sitcom almost about taking over a sub sandwich shop, and it completely lost that, right? And I remember the way you described season 3, I think, was like the show is really enjoying sniffing its own farts, and that is often how the show has felt like for the last few seasons. I want to make something clear. I, David Chen, love fine dining. I think I've eaten at like 4 Michelin star restaurants over the course of last year. Like I should be the target market for this show. And even I find it to be too pretentious and up its own ass for my taste. I mean, like there's a guy who's like joining the team, like, because they run out of space in the restaurant, and so they sit this guy back in the kitchen, and he's like and he's calling everyone chef and participating. That's me. Like, I'm that guy. So I love this stuff, and even I'm like, this is making me uncomfortable, like how like worshiping you are of this. Because the fact of the matter is, and I've talked about this. Like, I think there is dignity in all kinds of foods that people make, right? Like the original beef sandwich shop and the Michelin star, like it's all wonderful in my opinion. But this show has been like, we got to get the Michelin star. That is the thing. That's the North Star. Um, Getting a Michelin star can ruin your life. You know what I mean? Like it can be the thing that is like, oh man, we really shouldn't have tried for that. Or afterwards, the expectations are so high and the anxiety so high, it's crushing. Whatever the case is, um, I have never bought that as like a central animating factor for the show. And so that's one of the reasons why this season didn't necessarily work as much on me. But if you do buy it, if you're like, yes, the Michelin star is the best thing we can try to get, then you're gonna have a great time with the bear. You know what I mean? Like, so
I buy it. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I buy the pursuit of that as a form of emotional validation
Sure.
for the work that you do, in which, like, is it enough to just be good at something, or do you need an external force
Right.
to tell you, like, what does it mean to make it? It's like a central
Right.
question, especially of like this season of the bear, but definitely one that carries throughout it, is like, what does it mean to pursue a passion, a hobby and just because you're good at something, does it mean you love it? And what does it mean to love something when you turn it into your job? Existential question I asked myself and the 14-year-old version of Patrick that decided, what if you just decided to play video games every day for the rest of your life? Would that be great? Do you love ice cream every night? Oh, well, buddy, look forward to the next 30 years of your life.
It would be like if the show was about acting and the goal is like they're trying to win an Oscar. It's like, okay, really hard to do. And also, by the way, after you win it, it doesn't mean like your life is awesome forever. You know what I mean? Like, and also maybe the real victory is being able to take pleasure in your work regardless of external validation. But whatever, I know I'm talking crazy.
Rich. We all need to be Richie. We all need to be more Richie in our lives.
Well, that's the thing, is like Richie, in my opinion, has the most compelling arc of the whole show. This is a show that didn't figure out that Richie was supposed to be the main character until the very end.
But I think that is a compliment to the show that it figures out that he is the most interesting character by the end, because he's introduced into the story as comic relief, like
Right.
as a character that orbits. And I think yes, the show would have been better served, broadly speaking, by having probably been 3 seasons, right? I think it would have been a much. You can see everything that occurs over these 5 seasons, and how do we compress that to 3? I think we were looking at an all-timer.
And I'm just saying Richie has the most interesting arc of anyone in the show.
Right. I'm glad they don't lose it, right? Like the show did eventually recognize that and gives, I think Richie has the most believable, relatable, down-to-earth arc of any character in the show. And like where he starts and where he ends
it's beautiful.
It's inspiring. It's like we should all aspire at whatever age we are at. Like you can change and you can do different things and you can expand who you are as a person. Like, it's like he has the most beautiful arc of anyone on the show.
That is like probably the one way that you can justify this show's obsession with the Michelin star, in my opinion, is that Richie is somebody who finds structure, right? Who finds the ability to derive meaning for his life from the structure of like a high-end restaurant.
Right. But the star is just a reason to run the high-end restaurant. What Richie gets out of the job is knowing your name.
That's right.
And
that's
like it's I don't want to spoil, but a scene where he's on the phone and he's supposed to be doing something and he doesn't do it because his heart is too big.
15 years since you've seen your brother. Wow. Norway. Yeah, that is a long way.
And it's patently ridiculous, even for Richie, to not execute what he has been asked in that moment. But for the character's sake, it allows him to go on this really amazing arc for the rest of the season. And he cares that you have yes, the bear by the end is viewed through the lens of fine dining. But like we learn in the show, I think maybe for the first time, how much they charge for people. They say at one point it's $190. Like they charge $190 because $190 feels like a fun night, extravagant night out. $200 feels like you're getting a loan to pay for food. I would have guessed that the food was more expensive than that.
Right.
I haven't dined at a Michelin star restaurant. I'd be curious what you thought of that part of it. But also it's almost like the show doesn't really give us a lot of great sense into the clientele, but you do get the sense that these aren't necessarily like the richest people in Chicago. Like there's a
Mhm.
little bit of like these are closer to everyday people, like upper middle class probably, dressing up to have this is not something they do very often, and they're
Right.
doing it here. And Richie wants to make it special by knowing why you're here and what you're doing, and he takes such pride in caring that you're there. Like fine dining is not necessarily the best food you've ever had. It's the food is becomes better because you had a great experience. The context in
Absolutely.
which you experience the food is as important to how good, like it's like, and like a multiplier, like in a pinball machine, like is the experience of who you're with and being recognized and validated for like, you're special, you're having a great night. We're glad you're here. And then all of a sudden that fish like is like 3x as good as it would have been if it was
Mhm.
just served to you in your home.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so I think you made a good point, which is like the Michelin star is incidental. Like they could have been not trying for a Michelin star, and he was just doing the high end dining, and that would have been enough for him to like have this arc that he had, which is really really compelling and very beautiful, and probably the best part of the show in my opinion. In
Yeah.
my opinion, way more interesting than Carmi's arc during the show. Personally, certainly much more relatable. As for $190, that is about like average for like a
Okay.
high end tasting menu. Now that does not include usually like wine or wine pairing, right? Things
Right.
like that. So like people may end up spending way more. So two people at like 190 each, plus like a bunch of wine and any other add-ons, and you might end up being like closer to like $700-800 or whatever, depending on like tax and tip and all the other things added in. It depends, but that strikes me as about like relatively standard
Okay.
for I personally don't know if people would if 190 and 200 would actually swing a difference for most people. Like if you're already going all out, I don't know if $10 would make that big of a difference, but maybe they have access to data on the clientele that I don't have. Regardless, uh, Patrick, I'm glad you love this season, and I really admired it and appreciated many things about it. And at the end of the day, I was like, "Oh, you still got me, the bear. You still got me." So even me, a bear skeptic, was taken in by the show in its fifth season. Somebody who has like really not liked previous seasons. I was like, okay, at the end of the day, it still kind of worked on me. So, gotta give the bear a recommend. Bon appetit. That said, Patrick, let's talk about some other things that happen in the season. Let's talk about where everyone ends up, right? Time.com had an article where everyone ends up in the series finale of The Bear. Let's start with Carmi. Absolutely ridiculous scene with Carmi, by the way. I don't even know. I'm not even saying it's bad. I'm just saying you have John Mulaney going in and giving him a talk. Like, I don't know about you, but I thought he was like writing a book about his experience. Right?
Same.
That's good. And then just opens up about all of his kitchen trauma, which is very legitimate, and Jeremy Allen White does an amazing job. And then literally gets said like, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." But he's basically trying to intern at an architectural firm at the end of the show.
Okay.
And I think the place that he ends up makes a
Go
lot
to
of sense.
school. Go to school. What do you mean go to an intern in architectural firm? Go to
The
school.
way the way so the place he ends up I think makes sense. The way in which it plays out in the show is like ridiculous in my opinion, but whatever, like,
but
that's the way.
imagine the same desire, but like he's in a classroom. I just think it would have landed like the path that it would set up for him allowed him to do a monologue, and it feels like that's why they chose it as opposed
Right.
to.
And it's a really good monologue, and it's the first time he's like acknowledging a lot of the ways in which he uses the environment of the kitchen to process his own problem, his own like personal emotional issues, and so that's good personal growth. So did that need to happen at the interview of a architectural firm? I don't know, but Jeremy Allen White does give a good monologue, so I can't complain about it. You think it should have been in school? He's going to class, and like
something
it ends
else
with like a professor giving a lecture. Like, what do you?
Yeah, I guess that's the question to you is: do you think that's actually where he ends up?
I think it's good for him to. I think he has realized that at this stage of his life, being in a kitchen is worse for him than not being in the kitchen, right? And that is a good moment of personal growth to realize what your limitations are and to try doing something else. I actually think overall that's good. Whether it's at an architectural firm, like that comes out of like almost. I'm sure they seeded it in somewhere in the show, but like it's not like
was
I
it
thought to
season
me-
3 where he goes to the Frank Lloyd Wright
Right.
house? Like,
Right.
I get that he likes to draw. Like,
Yeah.
I thought what was being seeded through most of the show, and so then I was sort of taken aback by the architectural firm bit, was it seemed like they were doing a lot of work straight up in storytelling. We're like, man, he is really creative in a bind to come up with like a solution to a problem. What if, and there's a moment where she's where his mother is like looking through like this food book that he's made with these
Right.
beautiful drawings, all these recipes come with. I thought he was going to go into R&D, which is like go be on the creative side
Right.
of food creation that is removed from the kitchen, because it appears that he has a deep love, passion, and creativity for food. But what brings out his worst impulses is the high pressure nature of the serving of the food. But the idea of him being in a lab, just making recipes that go out, and then him like going on lecture tours, that seems to fit a lot more what he's good at. So I thought that's where we were leading, and then the architectural firm was a bit of a head scratcher.
Kind of out of nowhere. So we're in full spoilers for The Bear now, but basically Patrick Klepek should have been running this show is one of the things. One of the things that I take away from
it's
this.
in Chicago. I have strong feelings.
Sydney obviously riding high after the restaurant receives 2 Michelin stars. By the way, I don't know about you, Patrick, but it felt pretty cruel the way Carmi revealed that to her. Like
I was dying. I sort of clocked it about halfway through, and like, this feels like I'm seeing too much of The Writer's Room, where somebody was being clever. It was like, okay, like what if it's like you didn't get 1, you get 2, and the whole like writer's room goes, ooh!
Oh my god! Did you ever watch Arrested Development?
Yes.
There is that doctor that would always speak in terrible, like double entendres, right? So he would say, "I'm sorry,
yes,
we lost him. He got away from us." And it's like he's literally saying that he ran away. The patient ran away, not that he died. Or it looks like he's dead, And it's like, no, he painted blue all over himself. Like basically, that's Carmi is the doctor from Arrested Development. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think the show ever did the show does a decent enough job of conveying the weight of how prestigious it would be to get a Michelin star. But at no point, because we're never really conditioned for the idea that they could get 2, as someone that is not really experienced in the world of fine dining, you've done more of this than me. What is the difference between 1 and 2? Like, what is the delta between those? What does that change in terms of? I don't think they're charging $190 anymore.
I would say that the difference between 1 and 2, I don't have a firm grasp of this, but my like it basically, in general terms, I would describe it as 2 stars is just more special, more unique, less likely to be able to get that kind of dish somewhere else, and also the level of service is just on a level that's like not standard. Basically less standard. Like, did they throw a little party in the back of the restaurant for you, like because it was your kid's birthday? Like stuff like that. Kind of elevates it. But I don't have a firm grasp of the 2. I would say though, I would say it is a substantial difference, is from what I understand. So. Okay, what else happens? Sydney obviously running the bear now. Let's talk a little bit about Marcus. Marcus was in a bad headspace, spurred on by his estranged father's solo visit to the bear. Again, reading here from time.com. It impacted his mood, his work, and his relationship with Luca, turning a typically even-keeled, good-natured pastry chef into an anxious, defensive liability. But Marcus finds some catharsis and begins to make inroads with his dad. As he drops Luca off at the airport for his return to Copenhagen, he admits he plans to spend his day off in the lab, attempting to create another otherworldly confection. End quote. Did the Marcus arc land for you at all, Patrick Klepek?
Yeah, dude. Like when him and Luca just go at it, I was like, no, not my besties. What have they done?
And in front of the customers too.
In front of the customers.
This is not funny.
I thought Marcus really worked for me because he is like this very even-keeled, cool cucumber, and that's a bit of a mask for the emotions that are brewing underneath, like in a show that is constantly with people boiling over. It's like, well, it would never happen to him. And so when it does, I think it's and it's otherwise a show that the conflict is not between the characters, right? Like that crescendos at the end of season 4 with the big talk, like the little play that occurs outside between Richie, Carmi, and Sid. And this season, a lot of that is kind of set aside. In fact, there's a lot of, like, let's be nice to each other and speak, what I mean? Like everyone is not really barking in the same way, or the barking is a result of external factors like a person falling through the roof and everyone being wondering what the hell is going on, or upset, like pipes bursting and the consequences of the rain. The Luca, like Marcus incident is kind of the one time where we get real drama between our characters, like in the restaurant, and that's where it ends up feeling like so tense because there's just not a lot of that elsewhere. And so I think to pick those two characters and then have that pay off the whole spoon arc, one of my favorite little tidbits of the entire season,
the runner. Yeah.
was very good.
Tina becomes the chef de cuisine to Sydney, which is pretty impressive arc for that character, considering she came to the restaurant with virtually. There's that whole episode with her flashback, and you see how she came to the job in the first place, and it wasn't like it was her aspiration to do this. But I love the idea of her just kind of mastering this to the extent that she could be Sydney's chef de cuisine, and also obviously her Brussels sprout dish coming to fruition during a critical moment in the season. Patrick, don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but
no,
yeah,
it felt like a very appropriate.
It's
for,
lovely,
for
lovely,
the character.
lovely ending.
It's lovely. I mean, again, this is a show that by the end chooses optimism. For as conflict, as much conflict and as much trauma these characters have experienced, ultimately the bear ends up in a very optimistic place about its characters, their endings, et cetera, et cetera. And I got to admit, I think there's a very easy way to have the bear arc in a different direction, given how much darkness surrounds like the premise, why they're running the bear and the beef shop and a lot of the family dynamics. The show could have veered in a different direction, but ultimately, like, it has chosen to be a pretty optimistic show in a era of a lot of nihilistic shows, cynical shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I did sort of appreciate that, for however unrealistic that might be for everyone's ducks to align in a row. It felt like weirdly counterculture to be like, what if things were good? And like, what if people could be happy? Like, what a concept.
Well, there is the case of Ibrahim. So the whole season, they're trying to figure out how they can raise enough money to save the bear. And the idea is that Ibrahim has a prospectus. They're going to turn the beef side window into a ghost kitchen with suburban locations. I would say, Patrick, that this is a show that ends in a very optimistic place for its characters, not necessarily one for its for the restaurant industry, though, is kind of what I would say. Because it's like the way they can survive is not by maintaining this beautiful restaurant. It's by franchising out to this, ghost kitchens and using DoorDash, which is kind of against the ethos of, like, I'm not saying I like the ethos of the show, but it is an ethos, and it's kind of against that to be like, we're going to do ghost kitchens, and that's what's going to survive us. That's going to make us survive. That said, it is nice that Albert, the character played by Rob Reiner, who is tragically no longer with us, is a critical part of saving the restaurant, and so I did think that was nice. But let's talk about Richie, Patrick Klepek. I mean, this is the one that really got to me, and there is a moment. The moments that I'm talking about, right, are the moment that, like, I didn't see coming was when they're doing the rack of lamb and Carmi drops the lamb on the floor and you see it shatter like 18 times. And then he starts freaking out. He's like, I messed it up. I can't, I don't know what I did. I can't do it. And then Richie says,
Cousin.
Yeah.
We got you.
And that hit me so hard because we have seen these two characters fight for so many hours over the course of the last 5 seasons of television, that the idea of like, hey, we got you, like, we're in this together, that Richie's participation in this enterprise had allowed him to evolve to the point where he sees them all as a team. It's such a beautiful moment that was the conclusion of the arc for me. I didn't give a crap about anything came after that. Like that
Mhm.
was the moment where it's like the arc is complete. Like I feel like this is great, you know. So anyway, that was one thing that happened. Also, by the way, shame on you, show, for having a freaking prequel episode where Richie is T-boned, and that basically doesn't really do anything to the plot. Obviously, he's processing it during the course of the episode, but you know, I hate shit like that.
I prefer like ultimately no, it wasn't really the Indiana episode could have existed. Take out the accident because the accident has no consequence. At
Right.
the same time, the show doesn't make you reliant on having seen that episode if you somehow
Yes.
hadn't seen it. But
Appreciate that.
but then why put in the accident at all?
Yes.
Like you could have just had the Indiana episode, and that's fine. I really enjoyed that episode, but just have that be that. It was that was just a strange sort of decision.
You know, but hey, this is a show that makes very bizarre decisions, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
anyway, earlier in the day, I'm reading here from time.com, Natalie informs him that he's been invited to an international hospitality seminar in Japan, which initially causes him to have a panic attack. Richie has never left the country, let alone flown a plane. Luckily, Jess eases his fear of flying and journeys with him with a few subtle hand touches, all but confirming a budding romance that most of the kitchen has already sussed out. Before they go, Richie, now a master of hospitality, throws a surprise party for his daughter Eva, convening the whole family, including Bob Odenkirk, Jamie Lee Curtis, Josh Hartnett, and even Claire Bear, Molly Gordon, in celebratory harmony, end quote. So, yeah, any thoughts on Richie's end, Patrick Klepek?
Couple things. One, it's not the emotional line of the show, but it might be. It's definitely in like top 5 lines of the show for me. Is when he's explaining to Sid that he's going to go on this trip, and he's really anxious because he feels such ownership over the running of like the front end of the business.
I feel bad leaving you guys.
I hear you, but we got this, and we got this because of you.
And it's another instance of somebody saying like, "We got you," like you go do you. And it's the moment when he says and like you know I'm gonna be there for like a week, but like then also like I want to spend like all day at like this cool like ninja museum for an entire day. And I both wanted to cry, and I'm just like bursting out laughing because like the way he just like says I want to go spend a whole day at this cool ninja museum is one of the most heartwarming things I've ever seen. Like a character say on a television show. I was dying. And then it's also, and you mentioned the moment between Carmi and Richie, in which there's like Richie's evolution as a person is meant to help bring up Carmi as a person.
Yeah.
I was like, everyone's like shooting their emotional positivity superpowers out of their arms. Like, we got you. If it was like as it was a superhero film. But one of my favorite bits is the arc that Carmi goes through after the conversation he has with Richie out in the rain, which is like, just be like, ask how other people are doing. Like the whole reason Richie's able to come down from his panic attack is Carmi having those moments where like you see the gears turning, which is like empathy, ask how person, how doing. And like his questions all sound like that, like, how you doing? And, but I really enjoy watching them because it's not that he doesn't care about other people, but he has difficulty expressing those in terms that actually are helpful or allow people to be introspective, because sometimes people are feeling things and they want to vocalize it, but the only social way to vocalize it is someone asks you to vocalize it. And I really enjoyed that moment between them in the locker. I think he does that a couple different times, and so the way that those two lifted each other up out of like to become better people, like to themselves and to the people around them, I thought was really beautiful.
Indeed. By the way, I had a question about like, what was up with that burning field we saw, right? So I don't know if you remember in the Gary, in the end episode, there's like this burning field imagery, and then there's this burning field imagery again in the final episode. And then he's looking at this photo of him and Mikey in front of the burning field with all these people. So I was curious what this was. I Googled it, and on Reddit, a user named Engine Aggravating 699 wrote on Reddit, it is a controlled burn that Richie and Mikey stopped to watch during the trip to Gary, Indiana. During the flashback, you see the crew performing the burn with extinguishers and other equipment around the edges to make sure it doesn't spread out of control. Why did they stop to watch it? Because a wave of fire slowly moving through a field is cool. Why is it in the show? There's a lot of symbolism and comparisons that could be made, just a ton, end quote. One of which, of course, is that, obviously these people have strong, passionate personalities, right? And can you control it? Can you make it? Can you direct it towards good and productive ends? The ultimate question of the show.
Also, I think the sort of slow moving wave of fire that you can get past, but also never outrun, feels like the death of Mikey. Is like however far they get away from it, if you don't deal with it, it's going to catch up to you eventually.
Absolutely. Patrick Klepek, any other thoughts? Those are the major characters and what happened to them in season 5. Any other thoughts on the Bear season 5?
Yeah,
any other scenes that you
remember? One of the last things I mentioned earlier, but like the controlled nature of the ambitions of the season, right? Like Care Bear not there, great. The fact that like that character was barely a character was not Molly Gordon's fault. Like she,
right.
I think
she was great.
Did the best with a paper thin, manic pixie girl sort of a character that the show presented her with.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we got to meet her, because the bits we get with her, which is really just, an exchange that Carmen has with Mikey's old phone number, in which you were right about Care Bear, all good. Like, that's great. Like, the time we spent with her pays off there. I wish they'd done that character a better service and given her more to do. There wouldn't have been enough space in this season for that to make any sense, to just jam her in there. So the fact that the show recognized that, didn't include her physically except for that final cameo scene, but we still got some emotional payoff from the time that he spent with her, I think was the show. I wish the show had been that smart and economical about its characters earlier. And maybe the only way you get here is by kind of spinning out of control. But it's too bad, because if season 3 didn't exist, we probably feel a lot better about this show.
Absolutely,
as
100%.
But does it get here without season 3? I don't know. This is a show in which his actors took off, like it was lightning in a bottle. And they tried to contain it, and they contained it poorly. But I think it's a testament to the show that it did as good as I thought it did. A pretty remarkable job corralling itself as it guided towards the end. And so I continue to sort of praise the show for, honestly, its lack of ambition, because it recognized what made it work in the first place. These characters in a small space dealing with shit, both internally and externally. And that's how season 5 is. And I'm going to end up missing it. I'm very excited. I watched this show all by myself. My wife asked me, like, well, how was the final season? I was like, season 3 and 4, I didn't really feel like I wanted to watch with you. Or if I was, it's like, you can put it on and I'm going to play a video game while the episode airs. I'm going to be locked in. I'm locked in to watch season 5.
Nice.
Again. And that's also buttressed by the fact that, I mean, every time I started an episode, it was like 26 minutes. I was like, man, so many things are wrong in society, but this is good. This is good.
One thing I want to mention, by the way, I want to praise Christian Lundberg, who wrote the score for the episode or the season.
Great music.
Propulsive synthy score. I actually added it to my, Apple Music. It's actually kind of bullshit, in my opinion, that it's like score produced by Hans Zimmer. No one gives a shit who produced the score, Hans Zimmer.
Okay? Oh, so is this another one of those, like, Zimmer's going to get the credit, but actually somebody else did the music?
I'm watching the credits, and I'm pretty sure Hans Zimmer's name comes up before Christian Lundberg's did.
This happens a lot with Zimmer.
Yes.
And I don't know if this is the people running his company or he's doing it, but this happens a lot where I saw articles.
Yeah.
Where I was reading one of the message boards that I read, people were talking like, really like the soundtrack. Like, it's crazy that Zimmer took the time to do this. And it's like, well, he didn't.
Yeah, and it said, like, score produced by Hans Zimmer. I'm like, what a weird credit. And I look into it. Of course, it's Christian Lundberg. But check it out. The Bear season 5 score. It's available on your streaming platforms. And it's awesome. So
it has a for a hot second, I thought it was a Trent Reznor, like Atticus Finch collab.
Right,
it has a little bit of that synthy rock sort of feel. No needle drops whatsoever. I think it's a great choice to switch that up for the final season. To do it actually creates a different sort of sonic landscape that just feels, you don't really notice the difference until someone pointed out when I was reading about it. It's like, yeah, no needle drops this season. I'm like, huh. Okay, didn't notice, but I
Yeah.
love the way the music is incorporated this season.
I think the most interesting read on the Bear. I mean, I will just start by saying, to me, the journey is worth it just to see Richie's story.
Agreed.
Like, it's Richie's story, and if you can see, if there's no other storylines like Richie's story, that would be great and satisfying in of itself. The journey's worth it. I think, to me, the most interesting read of the Bear is a show about its own creation. And it started as a show that was about, hey, someone taking over this sub sandwich shop, right? And how stressful that was. Then the show won, like, I'm gonna say something like 89 Emmys. No, a gajillion Emmys. Like, it got tons of Emmys bestowed upon it. And then, like, season two, it's really starting to feel its strength, and it's like, we're gonna really go for it. We're gonna get Bob Odenkirk in the show, and we're gonna, like, get Jamie Lee Curtis, and we're gonna talk about, like, the big emotions and the family and how those dynamics, that trauma plays into the kitchen and so on. And then it just became, number one, obsessed with its own lore, right? Obsessed with, like, restaurants are, like, the most beautiful things in society. And by the way, me, David Chen, I actually, like, believe that, but, like, tone it down a little bit. You know, you don't need to, like, go all out like that. But, like, restaurants, aren't they so beautiful? And it's God's greatest creation on earth, and, like, and that's why all these characters are pursuing, and the Michelin star is so important. Blah blah blah. Right? So there's that. It not only became obsessed with its own lore and mythos of, like, the restaurant, but became terrified of doing anything else other than what it was doing. Right? Like, oh, the characters need to keep fighting because, like, that's what won us the Emmys. It was what the characters was fighting. And so then they didn't grow and they didn't move on for many, 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 many episodes. And you get that sense in this season when Sugar says, I'm not ready for this to be over yet. Right? Like, the show has overstayed its welcome. I don't believe it won any Emmys last season, right? Like, people are not talking about the show nearly as much anymore. It has worn out its welcome, right? It has become less popular, largely because of its nothing happened in season 3 and 4. But the show's like, I'm not ready for it to be over yet. Like, I don't want this to end. Like, we need to keep going. And again, it's like echoes of the show itself. The show itself of, like, they need to keep going, even though everyone's long gone, like, they need to keep going. To me, that's what the most interesting reading of the show is. It's like, it's a show about its own creation and grappling with what it means to have a small show become a huge prestige TV hit, and then not being able to really know what to do with it. Those are my thoughts.
I just had one. I was going to let it go the first time.
Hit me.
I can't let it go a second time. No one would classify the beef as a sub sandwich.
Thank you. Well, correct me. What is it? How would you describe it?
No, they serve beefs. They serve Italian beefs. Yes, like, the form of it could look akin to a sub sandwich. I understand. The first time I was like, it's fine. They wouldn't have called it a sub sandwich shop. Then he said it again. I just needed, as a local, I just needed to step in and just acknowledge. I feel like someone would have written in and been like, I cannot believe Patrick allowed that to pass.
Please, I don't want to mess up. So what would it would just be an Italian beef?
Yeah, it's a beef shop. Yeah, it's
beef
like
shop. Beef shop. Okay,
yeah,
apologies.
No, it's okay. I may not be from Chicago, but I am close enough that I had to.
Yeah. I feel bad because I felt like I was, like, really delivered a really good closing argument there.
The thing is, they probably also serve sub sandwiches there, like, which I get it. But they're presenting themselves as Mr. Beef, and so really, they'd be like, it's like when you go to any sort of restaurant, they also have a burger. It's like, well, okay, but they're not, a diner.
Well, you really stole my thunder there, Patrick.
Sorry,
but that's okay.
But
I appreciate it. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. Anyway, those are our thoughts on the beef. The Bear. The Bear is season 5. Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.